Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Calvin Tobin Show. I am your host, Calvin Tobin. Today we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Oh, right. Last night in the NBA, we saw a milestone that hasn't been achieved by the Sacramento Kings in nearly 2 decades. And what that milestone was is that they have finally clinched a spot in the NBA playoffs for the first time in 17 years. The Sacramento Kings this year are the 3rd team out of the West and the 7th total team that has clinched a spot in the 2023 NBA playoffs. The other 6 teams that have clinched a playoff spot for the NBA this year are the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Denver Nuggets, and the Memphis Grizzlies. The Sacramento Kings clinched their playoff spot last night by defeating the Portland Trail Blazers 120-80. And unfortunately, starting in this specific game and for the rest of the season, the Portland Trail Blazers are now without Damian Lillard because they had to shut him down for the rest of the season due to a calf injury. Now, as for the Sacramento Kings, they have caught us all by surprise with how successful they have been all year long. For starters, having a record of 46-30, the last time that the Kings won 40 games in a season was 17 years ago, the last time that they made the playoffs. Now, with what the Sacramento Kings have done this year, and their key to their success is their ability to spread and balance their offense throughout the floor. And they have done this by having one of the best offenses in the entire NBA. And part of that NBA offense is that they have scored 121 points per game, and they couldn't have been that great on the scoring end if it wasn't for being top 3 in efficiency at 49.6%. Now, with the Kings' offensive domination this year, they are scoring like no other because they have scored 130 points or more 25 different times. They have scored 130 17 times. They have scored 140 or more 4 times. They did 150 3 times, and they did 170 1 time. With the offensive firepower, the Sacramento Kings offensive self actually ended up creating history for themselves a few different times over the last month. And they're going to continue to make history if they keep up this scoring domination and scoring 121 points per game. And what that history is first part of the history is that a month ago is the Sacramento Kings ended up playing the Los Angeles Clippers, and this game went into double overtime, and this score ended up being 176-175 with just 351 combined points, and that is the 2nd highest combined NBA score of all time. If you want to know the highest combined score of all time, it was 40 years ago where the Denver Nuggets played the Detroit Pistons, and that game ended up being 186-184 with the Denver Nuggets coming out on top as the victor. The history that the Sacramento Kings are able to make when this season is over with is that they can be the 16th highest scoring offense in NBA history, but that's if it's by the decimal. They are the 16th highest, but if they were to leave out the decimals, the Sacramento Kings are actually the 6th highest scoring team in NBA history. But since we're counting decimal points, they are also the 2nd team in modern NBA history to score 120 or more points per game, with the 2020-2021 Milwaukee Bucks being the first team to do that in modern history. Now, the history that Keegan Murray made is that he is a rookie right now, and he broke the record for most made threes by a rookie in a season, and he has 188 right now, and he broke that record last night against the Portland Trailblazers. The previous record holder was by Donovan Mitchell, who had 187 at the time. And because that there is about 6 to 8 games left in the season, depending on the team, for the Sacramento Kings, I say that because they specifically have 6 games left to go, and they are 46-30, I say that they will end up with 51 wins on the season, and that Keegan Murray will end up with 201 made threes as the rookie record. And who knows, he may win Rookie of the Year because he's doing one hell of a job with the Kings, while Paolo Banchero is looking like he's going to win it, but he can only do so much with the Orlando Magic. Now, as for the NHL, the winning is getting closer and closer and getting more and more wild as the season is coming to an end. And speaking of wild, the Minnesota Wild just became the first place holder of the Central Division, and how they did this was dominating the month of March. And what they did in the month of March was have a record of 10-4, scoring 3.9 goals per game. And right now, Minnesota is one of 4 teams in the Central Division to have 40 wins, and they are one of 14 different teams to have 40 or more wins this year. With Minnesota, they just tied for first place in wins with 44, beating Colorado last night 4-2. And with this Colorado-Minnesota game was one of 3 games that were played last night. It was the only game that didn't go to overtime, and it was the highest scoring game of the night. Now, with this game, Minnesota, Matt Boldy, and for all the Minnesota fans are looking to see what Matt Boldy was going to do against Colorado, because he has been on fire over the past couple of weeks for the Minnesota Wild. And what he has done is get 2 hat tricks and 8 goals over the past 5 games, while scoring 10 goals over the last 9. And Minnesota, and the way they won this game is that they controlled the tempo of their game at their pace the entire time, and because of it, they ended up scoring a goal in every single period. And the way they were able to win this game was they sustained that momentum the entire time. They didn't let Colorado win in the rough areas, and they capitalized on turnovers, and they constantly stayed in Colorado's offensive zone. With Colorado, they had offensive bursts at moments during the game, and they got a couple goals out of it, but those goals that they scored were completely at the advantage of the skater, with very little to no defense on scoring both goals. Now, with what's going on in the NHL, and with it wrapping up, there are a few different divisional battles that you need to pay close attention to, because all these teams are within 2 to 3 points of each other, and based on how they perform for the final few games of the season, it could entirely change the outlook of what the playoff picture is going to look like for the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the first matchup that we gotta watch is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning out of the Atlantic Division. The other matchup is the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes out of the Metropolitan Division. And the last and final one is the Minnesota Wild, the Dallas Stars, and the Colorado Avalanche out of the Metropolitan Division. Now, why did I list 3 for the Central Division? It's because there are 3 teams that are within 3 points of each other. And Colorado and Minnesota last night were a big difference maker on who is actually going to win their game. And what happened is before this game was even started, Minnesota had 95 points, while Colorado had 94. And if Colorado won, they would have had 96, and they'd be in first place of the Central Division, while Minnesota would have 97, and Minnesota was the one that ended up with the victory, and they have 97 points. But between Dallas, Minnesota, and Colorado and Dallas both have 94, while Minnesota has 97. So that race is going to be the closest it can possibly get, because it's been the closest race all year long. Now we just got to see on who is going to finish where in the final stretch of the season. All right, that's the end of the Calvin Tobin Show. Please subscribe to my channel at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports media. And please follow me on Instagram at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports news whatsoever. And